back to the channel. Today we'll be doing something a little bit different. I am back in my dorm room. Sorry I haven't been fishing. I was on spring break. That's why all the videos have been hated. But today we'll be talking about how to fish in the spring and what baits to use in the spring. So the spring can be a very easy time to catch fish, and it can be very hard if you don't know what you're doing. That's why I'm making this video, because spring is made up of three different types of fishing or transitions, which is the pre-spawn, the spawn, and the post-spawn. Depending on what part of the country you live in, these different time frames can be earlier or later. If you live in the south, these will become way earlier because the water temperature will heat up, making these fish start the transitions earlier. Spring fishing starts in March and ends in June for the most part, and in this time frame bass are transitioning more than any time of the year. So in this video I'm going to be talking about pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn, and giving you different types of lures and techniques to fish all three of these. So to start off in the pre-spawn, your water temp will be anywhere from about 45 to 65 degrees depending on where you're living, of course. So in the pre-spawn, in its name, these fish are moving from their winter spots in the deeper parts of the main lake and channels up into the creeks and main points where they are going to spawn. That's why it's called the pre-spawn. This time frame is pretty short, but if you can fish it correctly, you'll catch a lot of fish because they're up, they're moving, they want to eat before they lay down and spawn. So these fish, when they are migrating up into the shallower waters in the creeks, they will travel and stop to eat at these different points that a lot of fishermen call staging areas for these bass. This is where they're stopping to eat right before they go into the more shallow creeks to spawn. My favorite bait to throw in these staging areas in the pre-spawn is a chatterbait. I do throw a chatterbait year round, but I for sure see an increase of bites and hookups definitely in the pre-spawn in these staging areas. I would stick to a white or maybe a natural colored chatterbait. Another thing with color is I fish in North Carolina a lot, and in the South. So you're trying to match the bait that they're eating. So if they're eating shad, stay with a white or a natural color. If you're in Florida with very dark water, maybe black and blue. Color is up to you, but make sure to match the color of what they are eating. Another color that works in the pre-spawn is red. I throw a lot of red worms. I don't throw a red chatterbait a lot, but I know it works. I know Hayden throws a red chatterbait a lot. It's definitely proven on the Bassmaster Elite Series. So red is another color that should work just about anywhere. One thing I like about the chatterbait is that you can throw it anywhere. I like throwing it around docks, wood coverage. You can throw it in grass. Anywhere these fish are stopping and staging right before they go eat, that is where you want to throw this. My favorite bait, I think, to throw in the pre-spawn, and I throw it in the wintertime because it is the best cold bait you can throw, is a jerkbait. I actually have a new one sitting right here. This is the Vision 110 by Megabass. This in the pre-spawn is an absolute killer. I catch so many fish on this bait, especially on my home lake, Lake Norman. In the pre-spawn, throw this same places you can in a chatterbait, except grass. I mean, you can throw it over the grass. Don't run one of these through grass because you will just catch grass, but a jerkbait is my favorite bait to throw in cold water situations. The jerkbait is a great bait for the winter to pre-spawn transition. I probably should have put that first on the list because it is perfect for the 45 to about 55, 60 degree water temp. Anything above that, you can get away with it, but perfect bait for winter to pre-spawn transition. So as far as color goes, I do like throwing a white jerkbait because at my lake they do feed on shad. But this color, I don't know exactly what this color is, but I'll try to find out for you. I don't know exactly what this color is, but I do catch a lot of fish on this. It has mostly white shad color, but it also has purple on top and a little green hint in that shad color. Probably hear a lot of people talking about these Vision 110s, and You might think, oh, it's overrated, everybody's using them, and there's a reason for that. I catch so many fish on this. Everybody I know catches so many fish on this exact jerkbait. I would definitely go out and get you at least one or two. You have to try them. Yes, they're very expensive, but there's a reason for that, and it is because they work. Megabass, if you're watching this, we are definitely open to a sponsorship. So as I said before, you can throw these just about anywhere. You can throw a chatterbait except for in the grass, of course. These hooks will get stuck in the grass, but another place I love throwing these are rocky points. Points are a great staging area for these bass right before they go up. I catch so many fish on rocky points. Any point you can find in this pre-spawn winter transition is great. There's a lot of main lake points that you can throw it on, and even if you go back into the creeks and find a point, there will be fish there. As far as water visibility, I do like throwing a jerkbait when it is more clear water. I like throwing the chatterbait in more murkier or muddier water. That's just my preference. So another bait that I like to use in the pre-spawn is a crawfish Texas rig or the bandito bug. A lot of people prefer jigs. I do not use a lot of jigs. I just never really liked jig fishing, but if you throw a bandito bug or a crawfish, rage crawl, any of these will definitely work in the pre-spawn. So as of where to throw this, I like throwing it on creek channel banks. So what this means is on the bank and drop it down into deeper water. That's why these fish pile up on deeper docks. It's because they have shallow water if they need it. And they do, because it is colder, they are still in deeper water. So that's why these channels are perfect on the banks. So I like fishing these because you can start in shallow water and hop these Texas rigs down into the deeper water. You can do the same thing with a jig, but there is usually coverage in there for these fish. If it's not a dock, it's stumps or bushes. So hop these Texas rigs down that little ridge into the channel, and most of the time you will get a bite or catch fish out of these channels. Another thing I love doing with these Texas rigs is just flipping. You can flip it in the shallower docks or wooded coverage, just like the chatterbait, or you can throw it in the grass. Is very versatile bait. I love throwing it in the pre-spawn. So after the pre-spawn, the water temperature heats up to about 65 degrees to 70 to 75 degrees. Water temperature can just play a role in knowing where these fish are going to be and how they're moving. So in the spawn, these fish are moving up into the creeks, of course, to lay on their beds. This is when a lot of bed fishing happens. This is actually the only time bed fishing happens. And to try to find these fish can be difficult if you don't know what you're looking for. But they are up in shallower creeks, very shallow water, and one of my favorite baits to throw in the spawn is a wacky worm. If you can pinpoint where these beds are and drop a wacky worm right on their head, they will eat it. If something hits their bed, they will bite it or look at it and try to push it away. If you drop that bait right on their head, they will eat it and you will catch this fish. And one of my favorite ways to do that is a wacky worm. My second favorite bait to throw in the spawn is, just like in the pre-spawn, a Texas rig. Bandito bug, rage crawl, anything you want. I don't really think it matters on what plastic it is, but those are just my two favorites. Same thing as the wacky worm. If you drop this bait on their head, they will eat it. Another thing you can do with this Texas rig is just flip the banks. Shallow creek banks filled with fish at this time. They're up there, they're hungry, they're laying their eggs, they want to eat. This is one of my favorite baits. Actually, my favorite bait to throw on banks, just flipping the banks. The third bait in the spawn transition or time frame is the frog. And a spring fishing video is not complete without a frog. I love throwing a frog. It is so much fun. Hayden loves throwing a frog. Topwater bites are definitely my favorite. I don't catch a ton of fish on a frog. I like a buzzbait more. Hayden likes a frog more. But these fish are hungry. They're in shallow water. They're going to see that frog. They're going to come up and they will eat. So moving into the post-spawn transition, these fish are moving from their beds and the shallower creeks back into where they started in the pre-spawn. This could happen in late May, early June, depending on where you are, even late June if you're up north. But these fish are moving back into their deeper water where they came from before. But this is also a great time to catch these fish. So after the spawn, these fish are focused on eating and they are hungry. So one of my favorite baits to throw in the early mornings, going back to the top water, is a buzzbait. Right in this period, there is usually a shad spawn. There we go, couldn't get it out of my mouth. But this shad spawn gets these fish hungry. There's a lot of bait for them to eat, and if you can mimic that shad, they will eat. I love throwing buzz baits in, if you can find a shallow point in deeper water, throw that buzz bait across, or a spook. Stay away from a frog here. That's just my personal preference, but if you can mimic that shad, they will eat it. Another thing with the shad spawn is that you have to know what the fish in your lake are eating. So if it's bluegill, match the color of what they're eating. So if it's a bluegill spawn, match the bluegill color. If it is a shad spawn, match that white shad color. So right after these fish come up in the early mornings to eat those buzz baits, anything that mimics that shad, they're going to go back down into the deeper water. So my favorite bait to throw in the mid mornings and afternoons would be a deep diving crankbait. Another great thing about the top water and crankbaits is that you can cover a ton of water in this period. If you don't know exactly where these fish are, put your trolling motor on high, or like 8, 9, just cover as much water as you can, you will catch fish. Another great lure to throw in the post spawn is a Senko or any type of worm that you like fishing that has the most confidence for you. These fish, as I said before, they're coming from the shallow water into the deeper water, and if they find something that they like and want to stay there, they will stay there. So if it's a deep dock like they were in the pre-spawn, or maybe a shell bed or a grass bed in deeper water, they're going to be there. Best lure to throw in any of these situations is a Senko, in my preference. But a lot of people like throwing giant worms. Texas rig works here, but I just like a spot remover Senko, 5-inch green pumpkin with black flake. That's my preference. You will catch these fish if they stop and find something that they like. So we just talked about the pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn. I hope this helps. I hope the baits that I picked out help you if you're tournament fishing, if you're just fishing for fun. These baits should get bites if you fish them correctly in the right spots. This time frame is a great time to fish for anybody. If you can find these fish, just cover a lot of water, find where these fish are. Try to figure out like where these fish are moving, the water temperatures. If you match the time frame and the water temperature up with what I said in this video, you should catch fish on all these points. These fish are moving up, spawning, moving back down in deeper water. It's a perfect time to catch these fish in all 3 of these transitions. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if this helps, and I'll see y'all later.